Our next speaker is Director of Blue Sky Uranium based in Argentina, David Terry.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to present Blue Sky Uranium to you today. I guess I will be making some forward-looking statements. Blue Sky is a Argentina-focused exploration and development company that has been advancing its Amarillo Grande uranium-vanadium project in the province of Rio Negro, which you can see on the slide here is in the northernmost of the Patagonian provinces, since 2006. And it just released a preliminary economic assessment earlier this year on its Havana uranium vanadium deposit that's within the Amarillo Grande project area that contains 22.7 million pounds of inferred resources. It's a member of the Grasso group of companies that have been successfully exploring in Argentina for almost 30 years and been credited with a number of significant discoveries, 2 of which have gone into production. I'm going to be focusing on the Amarillo Grande project today. This is the team behind the company. It's really managed by founder Joe Grasso and Nico Kakos, who's the CEO. I've been involved, I'm a geologist, I've been involved on the technical side since the company was formed in 2006. But the work down in Argentina is really taken care of by Guillermo Pinzado, who's a very experienced exploration geologist. He's got quite a bit of uranium experience, and he and his team are credited with making the discovery of Havana in 2017. Jorge Barizo in the center there on the bottom is again a very well-known Argentine geologist. He spent most of his career exploring for uranium deposits in Argentina for the state-owned company Canea. And since his retirement, has been advising Blue Sky on their exploration activities, and he actually made the initial discovery in 2006 on what's now our Amarillo Grande project. And then finally, Chuck Edwards joined about a year and a half ago. He's a very well-known metallurgist based out of Saskatoon, and I think he spent 10 years or so as Cameco's chief metallurgist, and he's worked for a number of engineering firms in that capacity since that time, and he's been instrumental in designing our metallurgical test work program and overseeing that, and then building out the process design for the PEA. Argentina is a nuclear country. There's 3 active large nuclear reactors in operation right now, a 4th one being built, several more in the planning stages. Between the sort of state enterprises and domestic engineering firms, they design and build smaller scale reactors for deployment around the country. There's a number of them, and they've sold them offshore to countries like Australia and Belgium, and I think there's one being considered in Saudi Arabia. They've got the ability to enrich uranium. They can build their own fuel rods, but they don't have any domestic supply of uranium in Argentina. They have had in the past, but not for several decades. And one of the things that benefits us is that the federal government has come out and strongly supported the development of a domestic industry. And obviously, the first company to get a deposit up and running will have potentially a good first customer. This is kind of what the landscape looks like in the area where our project is. We're in the sort of eastern part of Rio Negro province. In the western part, there is a research reactor, research institute, and an upgrading facility. But overall, Rio Negro's got great access to infrastructure. There's a good road network that accesses most parts of our project. There's power, rail, and we're close to a deep water port. We can work there on a year-round basis. This is actually a photograph of the area where our deposit is, and an RC drill rig set up on top of it. And again, you can see just scrubby brushland, no agricultural significance, and obviously very low population density. This is sort of a geological setting map, just basically to show that we've got excellent source rocks for uranium and vanadium surrounding us. Our project's shown in the red outline here on the map on the left. We're just in the furthest southeast extent of the Neuquén Basin, which is a really significant oil and gas producer in southern Argentina. And we're just overlapping on the north flank of the North Patagonian Massif, which has got obviously a lot of granitic and felsic volcanic rocks making it up. So excellent source rocks in the area. Our project has, or we see characteristics in the mineralization that we've identified in our project that would fall into either superficial style mineralization or sandstone hosted or roll front deposits. And so we see both of those aspects in our project, but the most important thing to sort of take away is that all of the mineralization and deposit that we've found to date have been either at or near surface. That's not to say that there's not potential at depth. There certainly is, and we've got several areas that we know we have potential at depth, but we've focused on the low-hanging fruit. It's very cost-effective and cheap to explore, and developing a conventional mine obviously is going to be cheaper to develop. Additionally, all of the mineralization that we've found and reported on is hosted in largely weakly consolidated clastic sediments, ranging from sand to gravel. And obviously this, in developing a conventional mining operation plays into the fact that you won't have to drill, blast, or crush that material to process it further. The deposits and zones of mineralization tend to be laterally extensive and range from several meters in thickness to several tens of meters. You can see an example in the upper right-hand corner here of a gravel coated with carnotite. The clasts are coated with carnotite. There's fine-grained carnotite also in the matrix. We have carried out a lot of the early exploration on some of these superficial type zones with surface pitting, and in this example, in the southern or the right-hand corner, heavily mineralized with carnotite. So we've amassed a very significant land position that covers a trend of 145 kilometers. Since 2006. The initial discovery was made up in the northwest at Santa Barbara, and that prompted us to fly a large airborne survey that resulted in the discovery of the Anit target in 2009. It's about a 15-kilometer long zone of at-surface uranium vanadium mineralization. And again, we flew a subsequent airborne survey in 2010 that resulted in the discovery of the Havana area down to the lower right-hand side. And so collectively this covers more than 250,000 hectares. The Havana deposit was discovered in 2017, interestingly just off the edge of the radiometric survey that was flown in 2010. We had done some surface surveys in that area. That's what got us into that. We published a maiden resource estimate in 2018, and then followed that up with the PEA and updated resource estimate in 2019. So this is zooming in on the deposit area itself. We believe that this is actually a basal channel roll front deposit that occurs at surface, but it's 5 kilometers end to end. The outline of the inferred resource is shown in red on this slide, and it does contain a 3 kilometer or so long high-grade core to the deposit. It ranges from 200 meters to 500 meters in width and is up to 23 meters thick. The actual deposit does not outcrop, but it's just covered by just a couple meters of unmineralized material. And we've also, over the last several months, released some results from pit sampling that we've done off to the west of the deposit, showing that there's mineralization certainly outside of the known resource. And we're going to have to do some drilling in that area to really firm up whether we can extend the resources out further to the west. This is the resource table. As you can see, it's totals 22.7 million pounds of U3O8 and 11.5 million pounds of V2O5. The primary uranium minerals that comprise the deposit are carnotite, uranium, vanadium, mineral, and a variant of oxidized variant of coffinite, which appears with all the QuemScan work that we've done to be sort of based on the coffinite structure, but it's not quite coffinite, or it's been modified. So as the process of the PEA has moved along, we've come up with what we think is a really simple and cost-effective method for treating this material. It's a two-stage process that involves initial screening and attrition screening and scrubbing with water using a mobile prep plant that can be moved around the mine area. And that process, we've done a lot of test work with a number of different composite samples representative of the deposit. We're able to basically reduce the mass by 75% or so with a concurrent upgrade of the grade of uranium and vanadium approximately 4 times, and recovering 99% of the or 89% of the contained uranium and vanadium, and then the product of that would be transported to a alkaline leach plant through a slurry pipeline, where sodium carbonate and bicarbonate would be used to leach out the uranium and vanadium particles, forming to be calcined into a yellow cake and V2O5 red cake. This is a image of the mine plan out of the PEA. Again, it's going to be a surface conventional mine. It'll be mined in cells, and the idea is that as we move forward, the coarse reject material and fine tailings material will be redeposited back into the mined out cells, so that at the end of the mining operation, you'll basically have a landscape that looks very similar to what it looks like now. I should mention that the town of Valcheta is about 25 kilometers to the south of this. So there's a community that's accessed through a paved road, which is just off the east or right-hand side of the map here, that we can use to service the project. This is a summary of the results of the PEA and the parameters that were used. We used a long-term uranium price of $50 and vanadium price of $15. 6,400 tons a day of mineralized material is going to be mined at a 1.1 to 1 strip ratio. You can see the initial capital cost was contemplated to be $128 million, and the ongoing capital cost for the life of the mine is $35. Those both contain a 30% contingency, and when all that's summed up, you can see that it's a very robust project for its size, with a significant NPV at an 8% discount rate and IRR. But the real reason we did this, because we wanted to show to ourselves and to the market that this material could be processed and uranium and vanadium produced at a low cost, and I think we certainly did that. You can see the cash costs that came out of the study are just over $16 net of byproducts, and the all-in sustaining cost just over 18. So if this was in production today, this is where it would sit on the cost curve in the lowest quartile, and I think that's where you want to be exploring and trying to develop a uranium project in this market. So what are we going to do now? We're focused on exploration and expanding the resources, and I think we've got lots of targets that hold good potential for doing that. As I explained earlier, we've got a very large land package with multiple targets that have had various amounts of exploration work done on them over the years. Right now we're focused still on the sort of southeastern end of our land package in the area around Havana and to the north. And we're right now doing an auger drilling program. This is something that we own ourselves, and we're able to go out and do it in a very low cost basis. We can get down to about 15 meters. We send a probe down, and it's very helpful in trying to target drill targets and that sort of thing. And we're also surface pitting in areas that we can do that. I've already indicated that around the Havana deposit itself, we think there's good potential for expansion. There's an area about 10 kilometers to the north of that called Havana Central. We think we've pinpointed where a roll front or a redox boundary is in that area associated with a radiometric anomaly. So that's another area that we're going to be focusing on. And then Havana North, which was the initial discovery area in this Havana project, that we found widespread at surface high-grade uranium and vanadium. Or when I say high-grade, I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of ppm. Uranium and vanadium at surface with a surface footprint very similar or larger to that around the Havana deposit itself. And so in the coming months, we're going to be carrying out this ongoing auger drilling. We're going to do some IP surveying over some of the areas, because we found that actually did help to identify the Havana deposit when we did some test lines over that. and then we plan on following that up later in the year with a RC drilling program. Here's where our market cap is. It's ranged over the last few months between 16 million and about 25 million. We got a pretty good recognition and a bump when we put out the PEA in early March, late February. Here we are sitting right now. We're traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol BSK, and we're also listed on the OTC and Frankfurt. And we're also covered by Red Cloud. There's a little write-up on us in the publication that they've put out. So hopefully I've been able to show that we've got a pretty significant discovery in Argentina with a large land position, which really we think has district scale potential. So hopefully you follow us. Happy to take any questions.
Some questions for David?
Finally, I get to buttonhole the geologist. I'm just curious what balance of geochemical assaying you do versus radiometric work to support your resource?
100% chemical. Yeah.
So
there is some disequilibrium. The probe works and scintillometers work and everything, but we have noticed some disequilibrium in some of the areas that we've sampled, and so 100% of our press releases and our resource and everything is chemical.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that.
What was the permitting process like?
The question was, what's the permitting process like?
Well, it's provincial, like it is in Canada, so you're dealing with the province on actual permitting things, and we've permitted the exploration programs we've done up to this point with really no issues. We've got a good relationship with the local community and local stakeholders, and we seem to have the support of the federal government in terms of moving forward, and certainly we've met with them and talked to them about our project. So they're aware of it, but it's a provincial process, and
Production scale.
on a production scale. Well, people ask me this, and there's not a lot of examples of recent uranium deposits being permitted in Argentina, but I will say that one of the other companies in that group, Golden Arrow, with its partner SSR, permitted a open pit silver lead zinc mine in Jujuy in the north end of the country in less than a year, and it's in production today.
One more question over here.
Is the focus then to continue developing this specific deposit, or is it more the exploration piece?
Well, our strategy now, we're in this current price environment, and our strategy is to try to expand the resources that we have. Now that we've sort of got the proof of principle, and we've got a sort of a bolt hole to grow from, and so we're going to
expand it at that deposit, or?
Well, both at that deposit and initially in that sort of 25-kilometer circumference around that. So the idea is this could be developed. Using a central processing facility or leach plant.
Is there a chance that government will support local production by subsidies?
There's always that chance. I don't know with the Argentinian government whether in the current state they're in we'll get much out of that, but it's possible. Yeah.
Who's building the reactors? Who's financing that?
I think the most recent one is a Russian deal, but I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, thank you very much, David. And with that, we'll take a short break for coffee. We appreciate you all.